In this podcast episode, award-winning documentarian Ky Dickens shares her groundbreaking work exploring the extraordinary inner worlds of non-speaking autistic children. Her project, the Telepathy Tapes, has become a cultural phenomenon, challenging long-held scientific paradigms about consciousness, communication, and human potential. Dickens shares the remarkable telepathic and extrasensory abilities exhibited by these children, the scientific and cultural resistance to such phenomena, and the broader implications for our understanding of consciousness itself. Dickens begins by describing the common narrative families face when raising non-speaking autistic children. Medical professionals often predict these children will never speak or reach typical cognitive milestones, leading to a sense that the individual is locked inside. However, many families intuitively sense a rich inner life and latent abilities that defy these bleak prognoses. The breakthrough comes through spelling, a method where non-speaking individuals point to letters on a board or device to communicate. This technique validates what families have long suspected. These children possess profound cognitive and communicative capacities, including telepathy. Dickens recounts her initial skepticism and subsequent amazement when witnessing controlled scientific tests, where non-speaking children accurately spelled out words or numbers that only their caretakers could see, often with accuracy rates exceeding 97%. These tests, conducted with rigorous protocols such as partitions and random number generators, provide compelling evidence that telepathic communication is not only real, but widespread among this population. The phenomenon is not isolated to one region or culture, but has been documented globally, from the United States to England, Israel, India, and beyond. The conversation naturally extends to Savant syndrome, a condition where individuals display extraordinary abilities in areas like mathematics, music, language, or art, often without formal training. Dickens highlights the fascinating subset of acquired savants, people who develop remarkable skills after brain injuries or other neurological events. These cases challenge materialist assumptions about the brain and consciousness, suggesting that latent capacities may exist beyond conventional understanding. Dickens and the host discuss the provocative idea that extrasensory perception, ESP, including telepathy, precognition, and remote viewing, might be considered a form of savant skill. While mainstream science has accepted other savant abilities despite not fully understanding their origins, ESP remains marginalized due to entrenched materialist paradigms. This raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness and the limits of scientific inquiry. A significant portion of the discussion centers on the dominant scientific worldview of materialism, which holds that reality consists solely of physical matter and that consciousness emerges from brain activity. Dickens explains how this paradigm has historically dismissed or ridiculed phenomena like telepathy, spiritual experiences, and other non-physical aspects of reality. This dismissal has led to a lack of funding, research, and open-mindedness in exploring these areas. However, recent advances in quantum physics and consciousness studies suggest the need for a post-materialist paradigm, where consciousness is fundamental and precedes physical reality. In this view, the brain acts more like a receiver or filter of a universal consciousness field rather than the sole originator of conscious experience. This shift helps explain telepathy and other ESP phenomena as natural consequences of interconnected consciousness rather than anomalies. Dickens references thinkers like Rupert Sheldrake, who proposes the existence of a mental field extending beyond the brain, and the idea that consciousness is non-local and not bound by space and time. This framework aligns with ancient philosophical and mystical traditions, such as Advaita Vedanta and Hermeticism, which have long posited a mental or spiritual basis for reality. Dickens shares exciting updates about ongoing scientific studies that are increasingly validating telepathic communication in non-speaking autistic individuals. She describes collaborations with neuroscientists and innovators developing brain scanning technologies combined with letterboards to create airtight experimental conditions. These studies have replicated telepathic results across multiple children, communication partners, and settings, making the evidence difficult to dismiss. Despite this progress, Dickens acknowledges the skepticism and resistance from parts of the scientific community and media. She emphasizes the importance of diverse scientific approaches, including large-scale observational studies and qualitative data from families and teachers who witness these abilities daily. The paradigm shift is underway, but it requires patience, open-mindedness, and a willingness to integrate seemingly paradoxical truths. A recurring theme in the conversation is the transformative power of love, presence, and belief in unlocking the potential of non-speaking individuals. Dickens stresses that beyond scientific validation, the simple act of truly believing in these children's competence and inner life changes everything. This belief fosters connection, helps overcome neurological barriers like apraxia, difficulty controlling the body, and can turn on latent gifts. The relationship between the communication partner and the non-speaker is described as a delicate dance of attention, intention, and emotional attunement. Dickens shares touching stories of families and teachers who create bridges of love and presence that enable telepathic communication and even shared creative experiences, such as composing music together. This dynamic suggests that consciousness is not isolated, but deeply relational and responsive to the quality of human connection. Beyond telepathy, Dickens reveals that many non-speaking autistic individuals report experiences of seeing spirits, connecting with deceased loved ones, and accessing metaphysical realms often referred to as the hill or the lollipop line. These are described as non-physical chat rooms or meeting places where non-speakers can interact, heal, and form friendships beyond the physical world. Remote viewing and precognition also emerge as common abilities, with examples of children spelling out obscure historical words or accurately describing events and objects beyond their immediate environment. These phenomena challenge linear notions of time and space and invite a broader understanding of consciousness as transcending physical limitations. One of the most compelling stories Dickens shares involves a non-speaking individual named Kyle, who communicates through lucid dreams with his mother. In these dreams, he not only conveys practical needs, but also composes music, guiding his mother in writing lyrics and melodies. This example illustrates how consciousness can operate through multiple channels beyond spoken language and physical interaction, revealing new dimensions of creativity and communication. Dickens and the host reflect on the broader cultural implications of embracing a post-materialist view of consciousness and recognizing the latent abilities within all humans. They discuss how telepathy and ESP are not exclusive to non-speaking autistic individuals, but exist on a spectrum accessible to everyone, especially through practices like meditation and intuition training. The conversation touches on the potential for a cultural evolution where love, unity, and interconnectedness replace fear, secrecy, and division. Dickens envisions a world where thoughts are recognized as powerful, energetic forces shaping reality, and where believing in one another's inherent competence and worth becomes a foundational social ethic.